certificate of qualification. Hi, I am Hassan.
Hi, I'm Madiha.
And together we welcome you to
Talk Canada.
Thank you for liking our previous video. We have been getting a lot of requests to talk further in detail about those steps. So we decided to make a couple of more videos based on those steps. So let's start with step 1, which is
Determining your eligibility, and this is step 1 of the Express Entry Visa program. So please keep watching and do watch till the end to understand step 1 thoroughly. So in order to determine your eligibility, you can visit the canada.ca website, which is the Government of Canada website, and there's going to be a questionnaire that you have to answer. It's going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes to answer that questionnaire. It's just basic questions. I believe it could also take you just 5 minutes to answer, depending on the kind of information that you provide. We would recommend that you provide accurate and up-to-date information in that questionnaire so that it correctly says whether you are eligible or not. Hassan, do you happen to have those questions?
I always do my research well.
Oh, of course.
So the first question they will ask about which province would you like to apply for?
Yes, well, that reminds me, if you are interested in multiple provinces, sadly, that's not one of the options that you can choose. You only have to specify one province. I think for this case, let's pick Ontario, because Ontario is the most densely populated and it's kind of a favorite province for everyone. So let's just go with Ontario.
And then they will ask you about the language test.
Yeah, I believe there are a couple of questions on language tests. And it's going to ask you if you have written a language test. It's going to be giving you options for IELTS. Then there's CELPIP, which is the Canadian English Proficiency Index.
That's right.
Oh, it's Canadian English Language Proficiency Index program, I guess. That's one of the other tests that you can take. Then there's 2 more tests, and I think they're French. Yes, they're French tests. So if you are fluent in French, or that's one of the languages you speak, then you can definitely go take those tests as well. The next question would be about when you've taken the tests, because the validity of the test results is for
2 years.
Yeah, so it's for 2 years. So please do make sure that the test, before you apply, make sure that the test you've taken, the results are valid at least for 2 years. And the next question is just going to be about how much you scored on listening, speaking, writing, and reading. And one of the tips was,
make sure your listening skills are way up.
Yeah, because if you have good points on listening, it's definitely going to be helpful.
And it boosts your marks up.
Yep, that's right.
So next question will be, in the last 3 years, whether you have any experience in Canada in the last 3 years.
I think it's skilled work experience, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's going to ask you if you have any skilled work experience which falls under those NOC codes that we've talked about in our previous video. I think it's type O, skill A and B. Yeah. So in most of the cases, people don't have that experience, and you can select none of the above, which is perfectly fine, because I believe the next question is,
in the last 10 years, if you have any experience in those skilled work experience.
And that's not in Canada. It's
not in Canada,
anywhere
in the world.
Okay, yeah. So the next question is exactly about that. So if you have worked, say for example, back home in any of those NOC code categories. So say for example, if I was back home, I was working in HR as an HR professional or an HR manager, that would mean that I was under job code O or 0. And I can put my experience in there. Say for example, I had like 3 to 4 years of experience from back home. So I will be given an option to choose how many years of experience I have, and whether the job that I held back home fell into any of those 3 NOC code jobs, which is 0, A, and B.
So the next question they will ask about if you have any certificate of qualification from any Canadian provinces.
Yeah, in your own skill trade. So yeah, that's one of the questions.
Then they will ask you about how much money you're bringing.
That's right. So the minimum you can bring is $12,960. So we would recommend you to bring as much as you can. The more the better, the more the merrier, so the more the better. And if you are like more than one family member, so if it's not just one person coming, say for example if it's two people coming or more than two, then definitely you need to have quite a decent amount of funds to bring into Canada.
And then, how many members are you bringing?
Oh, yeah, again, like I said, sometimes it's just single people who want to immigrate to Canada. Sometimes it's two people, two married people, couples that want to immigrate. And sometimes there are couples with kids. So, yeah.
Do you have any valid job offer?
That is the next question. So, in most of the cases, I think people don't have a valid job offer from Canada before they immigrate. And that's perfectly fine too. If you don't have a job offer from Canada, that's okay. If you do, that's great. Maybe it's not going to ask you any further questions. Maybe that's the end of your questionnaire, and maybe you are eligible for express entry. But if you don't have a job offer, that's okay. You can still be eligible.
Then they will ask you about date of birth.
Yep.
Then the younger you are, the better it is.
Yeah.
And your education.
Yeah, it's also going to ask you what your education is. If you do not have any Canadian education, if you have education from back home or anywhere in the world, then it's going to ask you what level of education you have. I think for most of the people, it's who come here is it bachelor's?
Bachelor's. You need minimum bachelor's.
Yeah.
But if you have master's, you are a
Yeah,
job.
that's a good thing. Yeah, that's right. So it's going to ask you that question about education. So don't worry if you don't have Canadian education. That's absolutely okay. You can always put in the education you've had from back home.
So if you are bringing your spouse, they will also ask you about your spouse IELTS score, right?
Yeah, it's going to ask you if your spouse has appeared for any of those tests like IELTS or CELPIP or the French test, and what their score was. So they are going to ask you what their scores were. So if you both are deciding to write IELTS, that's excellent. You both should definitely write and try to score as much as you can, especially on listening. And when it comes to spouse, it's also going to ask you a few more questions which I just remembered. It's going to ask you if your spouse has studied in Canada. You can always do no or yes depending on whatever your situation is. It's going to ask you if your spouse lives in Canada, is a resident or a PR holder. It's also going to ask you if you've ever studied in Canada, or you've worked in Canada, or you have a relative who's over the age of 18 years and lives in Canada. I think for relatives it has how many points?
5 points.
Yeah, so for relatives I think it has 5 points too, so that adds up to your express entry score. That pretty much brings us to the end of this particular questionnaire that we were discussing. At the end of the questionnaire, if you are deemed to be eligible, you're going to receive a reference code. And I think
And those reference codes are valid for I think 30 days.
Yeah, it's 30 days or 1 month. That's going to be valid for 1 month. And when you submit your online application, you have to mention that reference code in there. So please do save it. Don't get rid of it. Just keep it in your records. You're going to use it and need it down the road into this application process. So now we are going to move on to the second part of step 1, which is talking about the 3 different programs under express entry.
So the express entry has 3 programs: Federal Skilled Trade Program, Federal Skilled Worker Program, and Canadian Experience Class Program. And they also have PNP, which is Provincial Nominee Program.
Yep. So the first one, let's talk about the Federal Skilled Worker Program. So under this program, there are 3 minimum requirements. It's that you have to have skilled work experience. You should be having language ability, so you should have taken one of those tests. And I believe the third one is education. Yes, you need to have education. So these 3 are the minimum requirements for this particular program. While you're inside that express entry pool, and if you have these 3 minimum requirements, you're going to be judged on, or you're going to be assessed on 6 more factors, which I will be posting here down below. So you'll be judged or assessed on these factors here. and then you will be given points. Now, the points that you'll be given under this program are different than the points that you will be given in the Express Entry program. So this is a 100-point grid program. Under this, you will be given points up to 100, and
the cutoff is 67 points.
Yes, as of August 2020, the cutoff is 67 points. So yeah, that's all about Federal Skilled Worker Program. Again, we would highly recommend you to check the canada.ca website. So the next program is the FST program, which is the Federal Skilled Trade Program. And under this, the minimum requirements are slightly different than FSW program. So under this, you need to achieve language levels for reading, listening, writing, and speaking as specified by the government. And that's something that you can find out on the website as well as to what the required language levels are. The second minimum requirement is to have a minimum of 2 years of work experience or skilled work experience, and that should be within the 5 years that you apply.
So basically,
go ahead.
So basically, suppose if you applied in 2020 August, and so your job experience should be after 2015 August.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, if it's before 2015, then your whole experience is nullified.
Yeah, that's right. So it should be within those 5 years. And the next minimum requirement for this particular program is that you have to have the job experience that you have. It has to fall under the requirements or the job requirements of those NOC codes. Again, you'll find those NOC codes to be 0A and B, and they're on the website. So the requirements should match those NOC code requirements. The next requirement is to have a valid job offer from a Canadian employer. It should be full-time, and it should be for at least a period of 1 year. Or you can have a certificate of qualification from any province in Canada. So either of the two are fine. So these are the minimum requirements for you to be accepted into the Express Entry program through the Federal Skilled Trade Program.
Okay, so the next one will be Canadian Experience Class. They have the same level of language level requirement for reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And you should be working 1 year. You should be having 1 year full-time experience in Canada in skilled field, right?
Yes, in your skilled work field. And for example, again, if you're applying in 2020, then that experience should be after 2017. So any experience before 2017 in Canada in your skilled work is going to be not acceptable.
And you should be having legal experience. So that means you should be working on work permit. Yeah. You're not eligible to apply for this class if you claim for refugee status, or you work under illegally worked here, or if you worked without any status, PR status. PR status?
No, I think it's temporary resident status.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so if you worked when you're not even a temporary resident, so that's again illegally. So yeah, your application will not be accepted in these conditions.
Yep.
And I guess that's all about CEC. What's left?
PNP. So under the PNP program, which is Provincial Nominee Program, you have to show your interest to the province, and then province will pick you up from the Express Entry pool. But why would province pick you up?
Oh, well, a province would pick you up because let's talk about the Ontario province. So the Ontario province would pick you up based on three reasons, or due to 3 reasons. Number one, if you have a valid job offer from an employer in Ontario. If you are human capital, that means you have a valuable work experience, you have education, you have language skills that you're going to bring to Canada. Why not? The province would definitely nominate you in that case. And the third category is, I believe, for entrepreneurs or new businessmen. Yes, they would pick you up if you are a new business.
If you're bringing a lot of money to generate in the economy. then they will pick you up for that
Yeah,
too.
that's right.
Yeah.
So if a province nominates you, there's an option while you're putting in that application for express entry, there's an option that asks you, and you can just put yes. So make sure that you do fall under any of those three categories so that a province can nominate you and you can make use of that. And this pretty much brings us to the end of step 1, which is eligibility. So to wrap this step 1 up, we would conclude by saying that even though Ontario is a densely populated province and a lot of people want to apply and come to Ontario specifically due to its population, due to the job opportunities that this province offers.
And it's kind of warmer compared to other provinces.
That's right too. So even though a lot of people want to apply to Ontario, sometimes it can get a little tough to actually, come to Ontario.
But don't lose hope. There are other provinces like Saskatchewan, Alberta, and then British Columbia. You can apply. Once you're leaving your home country, you should be ready to, go anywhere for your better opportunities.
Yeah, and for a better future, you should definitely go around. Like Hassan said, if you're leaving your home country to settle down in a completely new country to develop your future and for the betterment, then I don't think provinces should matter.
Yeah.
And with that, we end this particular video. So please do keep watching our channel Talk Canada. We are going to be doing more videos on each step of express entry.
So please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you so
for
much.
watching.